Now that we're all collectively playing a video game, as opposed to whatever the hell this was before Dragonflight came out, but it's now a video game. I hope everyone's been enjoying it, because I sure have.
Yeah, people are finding out that it can be a goddamn game. That's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out if whenever there's no gameplay in a game such as moving between A and B, you add some gameplay, then people don't alt-tab and get bored. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy thought.
It's going to require some cranial adjustment to those who I think would be better off playing an idle game on their phone. But I think for people who are perhaps in here to play a fully featured video game, we're eating good.
Yeah, I feel like in terms of my opinion of World of Warcraft, I feel like I just hit a wall. Straight up just, oh yeah, here's the current train of thought. Whoop, whoop, nope, sorry. This is now blocked off to you. You have to go a different way. I'm like, cool. What's this? A profound amount of respect for almost every decision the team's made in putting this content together. Where'd that come from? Holy shit. That's incredible.
Man's wearing a 3D flower and he's happy.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit, but there's a flower wrist that you get from a side quest, and I got it, and I was like, I'm like happy. What's going on here?
Like, what the f*** are these 3 dimensions on? What? Madness. God, yeah, now we just got, I don't know, 3D chest armor, then we're all good.
I mean, yeah, it's you kind of clown like, what do you mean a 3D wrist piece? What do you mean it's actually good? But it is actually genuinely great.
Yeah, you're just JHL gamer, just hopping back on a break in work. Dragonflight's awesome so far. You know, that everyone's... Okay, not everyone is saying that, of course. Yeah. This is the internet, and, it's not everybody. But, right, isn't it qualitatives, opinions, quantitatives, numbers?
Yes.
Yes, so the qualitative side of things, it's been super strong. Like, okay, salty bastard. I don't want to... I don't want to be casting foul aspersions on you, Matt.
Yeah.
Salty bastard.
Yes, less so of late, but generally speaking, yes. It's that every decision that it seemed the development team were making in World of Warcraft was not intentionally, but accidentally, like putting players into an Iron Maiden. For some reason, they just didn't seem to trust them to say, here's some stuff, would you like to play it?
Yeah.
They always just went, no, get in the fucking pit and work. And now they're saying, hey, do you want to play a video game? Like, does this video game have content? Yep. Does it have gameplay? Yep.
Yeah?
Are you forcing me to anything? Not really. Okay. Sounds amenable to me.
Armand Dakor? Salty bastard?
Yeah.
Guess what he tweeted?
Oh, yeah.
This truly does feel like the game I originally fell in love with at school. The sense of mystery, awe, vastness, and abundance of optional stuff to do. All the while being able to do very little extra to stay relevant at endgame, plus the ambience, music, and side story slap.
Yeah, so I would personally
Happy Mythic Raider.
Cast a slight aspersion on the game you fell in love with in school, because it never is going to be that again, and never can be, because that's from literally a different world in terms of how players experience it. But all of the last half of just, there's content to do, you don't have to work like a madman to stay relevant for endgame stuff. It's just full of things that are actually good enough content kind of by themselves, where you go through side quests and go, oh, these are short stories. These are short stories with emotionally compelling character arcs that are like, it does happen over 2 events and like 10 lines of dialogue, but it's still meaningful. It's still telling a story.
Yeah, I mean...
And you go, okay.
This is shocking, but since the earliest days, mankind has been pretty attracted to stories. And so it's like, just put lots of stories in and have them actually be pretty good. For that thing of like, it never will be classic again, that's definitely true. Yeah. It's about, can a different game hit the same or hit in a similar way?
Yeah.
So it's like, what did classic do when you were, when we were all like way younger? It was capture your imagination, was full of stories, had compelling progression, felt like it was a world that was like a true secondary world that you could succeed in. And if it achieves a bunch of those pillars via different mechanical means, but such that it is up to date for, the day that it's actually coming out, well, then I think that's how the first half of the tweet kind of like does make sense, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, It's been a fairly resounding success compared to... Because it's always good to try to pull ourselves back to like a little bit more of a... I don't want to say objective, because it's like, let's objectively talk about our opinions. But to try to be objective, how many days is it? It's 5 days.
No, it's not.
4 days.
It's barely 4.
Yeah, so
it's like, okay. It would have launched about
4 days.
92 hours, I think. About that.
Just under 4 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time it hits 11 p.m. for us tonight, it will have been 4 days in the dot. So if we were to compare like the first 4 days of the last few expansions that, that we've played with World of Warcraft, I think that is perhaps the most like fair endeavor that we can do, right? So this time in Shadowlands, what I remember was having quite a lot of fun doing the level up campaign. Not because of the story, but because me, you, and Jared had war mode turned on, and he was a Death Knight, and he was gripping people into the pit of destruction, which was us. And that was pretty good band. Then, we sort of quickly got to, you get to max level, and you're like, all right, anima. I guess I don't really care about that. What is there to do? And even like the side quests, in terms of how they were like structured for like overall video game systems, you look at the side quests in Shadowlands, and a few of them are like pretty decent. They were like little stories. I just think they didn't hit as well. But I was like, how do they fit into the overall game? They didn't really feel like they fit. And then you're immediately thinking about the legendaries, and you're doing your first ventures into Torghast, which is something where they didn't really put their strongest foot forward with how Torghast was initially presented to players, and like the way that you were grinding for the shit in Torghast. Mm-hmm. So, it was weird for me. Shadowlands had a pretty decent honeymoon period because a bunch of new dungeons is just fun, right? Like that was fun enough. I'm so far have a better opinion of these dungeons. I think that could be because they just thematically appeal to me more. So that is purely just an opinion thing.
Yeah, that's something we might talk about later today, because I'm really wondering, is how I feel about some of the new dungeons absolute cope that I'm making up in my head, or is there some form of like actual reality to how they feel? And I wouldn't mind grabbing some opinions from Chatty with a decent idea. So
it's weird because because we did have some fun in the first 2 weeks of Shadowlands, right? We've talked about this before. But the fun that we had was very much couched in a, oh boy, we know what's coming. Mm-hmm. We knew the issues. We were frustrated over the Covenant. So it wasn't like pure, it wasn't just like pure good. It felt a little bit compromised. And I actually feel that initially BFA felt even worse. I mean, I remember basically losing half of my will to live during the level up experience just because how much of a wet noodle my character turned into, losing all of that power. And then in BFA, you're like immediately like, Azerite, artifact power. And I actually think BFA had a worse honeymoon period. And then, I mean, the war fronts, which just weren't really,
The war fronts, I would say they had promised, they were promised to be, hey, this is what we sort of think is how playing the RTS and MMO would feel. Isn't it kind of all, you got your resource loops, go get resources,
could have been.
Go build your things, make your progression. And I actually know them fairly well because I did them recently, because for some reason the only thing I could do during P-Patch that wowould satisfy my weird gamer brain was farming 7th Legion service medals to get the Priestess Lightsaber.
Good man.
So I was doing, it was Darkshore with 5 people. I was like, this actually kind of works because we all have like a role.
Yeah,
we know
when
how
there's
to do
5
it.
people. And I remember the alpha tests, when I was doing the alpha testing in Warfronts, my initial opinion was like, whoa, this is actually kind of fun. Because, and this is the thing. we weren't thinking about rewards. We were jumping in to playtest this new thing. Nobody knew exactly what to do. And on that point in the alpha, you didn't have a full stack of people, which meant that your individual, like the shit that you did individually actually did have a bit of an outcome. Yeah. And that was pretty satisfying. That's what you experienced.
I literally just, oh, hey, our iron income's not doing that well. We want to get this over and done with. And then someone just said, okay, well, you can get iron from the carts at the top, because we were attacking this alliance from the top end, this horde, or from the top from the horde man at the top one. Oh shit, so we can. This was actually in Arathi. I was like, oh yeah, you can. And I went and got iron and then handed it in. I was like, oh yeah, that was like a party of people doing like a war front. But when it hit live in its state with all the players and how easy it was, how brainless it was,
yeah, it was easy. It was brainless. People were doing it just for the reward, which basically meant you were, you may as well have like got into the war front, hit your stop clock, like back in chemistry class, right? You just have one of those, that's got the 2 buttons on it. You just give one of them a big slap. You look at the clock, you're like, all right, we're just going to wait and let it happen. And it's the exact same thing with Torghast. Some people were trying to clown on us for, I remember your big video on Torghast.
Yeah. Vaguely, it was a long time ago, but yes.
Yeah. And
Torghast was great in concept.
Yeah, it was great in concept. There's actually plenty of pretty good gameplay in there. Whenever people try to, if the style that the reward system that was put in with like the timing, the stars, if that meshes with how somebody would want to play Torghast, there actually can be quite a bit of good gameplay there. But again, it's like with the Island Expeditions, which themselves had some pretty novel, neat little bits of a design. But the second that it just turns into that shore, it's completely different in how a player experiences it. And that feels different to aiding the Accord. Because aiding the Accord is just it's not stop what you're doing, stop what you want to do, and go do these things and this bizarre tower instead. It's tied into literally everything else that you would be doing in the game anyway.
Do stuff, bars filled.
Yeah. So it works a lot better as a weekly bunch of reward than I think those other systems. And of course, it's great that, hey, if you're a Mythic Raider, you don't need a car. I mean, maybe you will because you want to be perfectly optimal or something early. I don't know. But it's not like it's tied into legendaries or tied into any of that shit. Yeah. That's really just there so that for the players who aren't going to be doing, loads of mythic dungeons or heroic raids, that they can just actually feel like they can succeed in the world content in a way that I don't really feel competes with the types of content we're doing. So, the honeymoon period versus the other 2 expansions, I think, is significantly more positive this time around. Another thing that's pretty notable to me, some of the most fun that I had during the honeymoon period of Shadowlands was just the honor gearing. And that was just me in Eye of the Storm again. That was fun because I wanted to get that gear, and, I was using, the explosive trap that bounces people away so you knock them into the big void. That was the sort of fun that I was having. That wasn't Shadowlands content.
That was the gameplay.
Yeah. Now, I could be doing that and having lots of fun right now. Part of the reason why I'm not is because there's so much more new stuff. So I guess that's the thing. In Shadowlands, quite a lot of the fun that I was having was just basic World of Warcraft fun, juiced up by, there's a new cap, there's new shit to get. But this time round, the things that are drawing my attention, I think drawing your attention as well, are the world and the stories. So it feels like RPG in significantly more meanings, of the word. I mean, hell, even the way the renown progression works, it's hey, get 1,000 anima and click 5 souls, then 10 souls, and 20 souls, and there you get 2 a week, and that'll get you 1 campaign chapter. Now, even though you may end up with similar-ish timings and how the game is right now, the way that it's structured feels completely different to a player. And again, so much of this, and this is even what you were talking about with, there are a few similarities to anime here when you think about it, but again, game design is in the subtleties, it's in the presentation of things, and that's where this time it's working a lot better.
That's what I find it really hard to grapple with, is looking at the principles of it and going, I'm boiling these down just for the sake of thinking about them to the rawest components. What is renown? It's a really slow, soft, time-gated rep grind. that should be a bad thing. However, what the actual player experience is here's a massive list of things to do. You can do whatever you want. You probably want to do most of it, but you can kind of take it at your own pace because there's no rush to get anything because this content will be here for you over the next couple months. And I was like, oh yeah, well of course people like to grind things. It's like the Cobalt assembly. You just sit in the assembly and kill stuff. Get your rank up, get a ring.
Yeah, got the powers.
And people are like, yeah, it'll be fun. All right. So it's about the player experience, which is how they motivate themselves and how they feel about what they're doing, more than what they're doing. Because that's the whole thing about, like, why does one person like a video game and the other person doesn't? You're like, well, obviously there's something in the person that changes how they feel things, and the game kind of does that. Because it was Liz tweeted earlier on. Now that I'm not forced to grind renown, etc., I actually enjoy it and I want to do it. Strange how it works, right? And I was just like, yeah, that's one of the sort of leading fields of psychology at the minute is self-determination theory. And that's the idea that, the autonomy, competence, and the other ones I can't remember, even though I was looking at it earlier today. I've played a lot of Dragonflight. I'm very tired. But autonomy is one where it's, people don't respond well to coercive motivation.
Yeah.
There's a whole, I haven't seen who he sources, but
tell that to Duolingo. Yeah,
exactly. But there's a Dr. David Burns, I think, wrote a book called something or other. I can't remember the name of it at all, but it's like a new thing about how to motivate yourself and stuff. And I'm reading the synopsis. He talks a lot about don't tell yourself you should or have to do things, because people don't like having to do things. People like wanting to do things. And if you can remove the coercion, even you can remove the controlling part of it, then people go, I want to do that. And obviously studies have backed that up in a whole bunch of ways. And that's exactly how it feels so much. Where it's just, so instead of saying, here's the content, we'll make you do it, otherwise you won't do it because we don't trust it or whatever reason. They're like, here's a little shit. Fucking do it whatever you want. And that has resulted in people going, I can engage in this in my own terms. I'm not rushing to do anything. So that means I can take my time. I can stop to smell the roses. Because there's I can't remember the name of it. Is it Shen Comics, that comic guy? And it's, there's someone playing World of Warcraft and they're going very fast. They're very stressed out and going, you should stop to smell the roses sometimes. And then the person grabs a big pile of, stop to smell flowers, grabs a pile of flowers, smells them all, and then hoists a trophy saying #1 flower smeller. Or like, that's where it goes a little bit, donuts. And that's where it goes a little bit wrong. But people have intentionally avoided that because they know not to now. And people are playing games in different ways and they're actually just going, hey, do side quests, let's do I really want to do the side quests and they're a really good source of renown. But then I started to notice I'm doing these side quests a bit fast. I'm not fully engaged with them. So what did I do for like an hour today? I went and finished up all of the Dragon Ring races. So I now have the Isles Racer title. I'm like, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. And now I can go to other things.
It was something that we don't think about in World of Warcraft because a lot of people, and I think a lot of game designers push people to think about so many games in this way. A lot of people treat World of Warcraft like an idle game. Like it's put time in, get result. And we're very focused in that, that kind of like bizarre way the modern games push us in. Whereas, like, I'm not saying that Tony Hawk Pro Skater and Dragon Riding are the same. They're obviously not. But the point there is you had like, I don't know, an hour or two of fun flying around through circles like you're playing a game. You now have a title for that. And it's like, oh yeah, I have a title because I did that thing. This thing was actually really fun. It was a little adventure. Probably in 6 months, in 6 months versus just like talking about a grind you did, you'd be like, oh yeah, that was the day I got Isles Racer. It was a thing that I did. It was an activity. It was a slice of game. Right? Like a lot of time people will judge a game that comes out by like, how many hours of gameplay will I get? And sometimes we need to talk about then the quality of that gameplay, because how much of that is just doing the same thing versus how much of that is you doing a bunch of races, having fun. There's 34, at least per the achievements, side quest chains.
Yeah.
That's 34 stories to engage in.
I've done like 9 of them and I'm already overwhelmed.
And like, thankfully the game systems do reward you for doing all of these things. Like it increases your renown. So via the number go up. It's an RPG in that sense. It works. But also via the role-playing game side of things, it works again as well.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's working, because we're getting the RPG as in numbers go up in progression. And at the same time, we are getting the other aspects of RPG that feel good, right? So it just feels like the various, I guess, hooks of a game like World of Warcraft, like they're all stronger right now because they're more in balance.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the thing. It's like, maybe you don't have to do things that feel coercive. Like, Torghast was just fucking coercive. They're like, yeah, look, we made these legendaries and you have to do Torghast to get them. There's a lore connection, but we made it that way. You go do it. Like Duolingo, anytime, you'll know if you have somebody, if someone in your life uses Duolingo and you're near them towards the end of the day.
Fucking aggressive.
You'll know because they'll get their beeps. They're like, 1 second, I need to look at some Japanese on my phone. World of Warcraft would feel like that. I feel so shitty.
And the Duolingo model obviously works for some people, but for people who are, a little bit more in tune to like the self-determination theory and, aren't just liable to be, I'll do whatever I'm told, whatever, etc. That doesn't work. That burns people out. And they go, no, fuck that. So I haven't looked at Duolingo in months. Every time it pings me, I just get angry. Fuck you. Fuck you, little annoying bird. I'm not going to do what you tell me. I'll do this shit in my own time.
Yeah. Man's going to go and he's going to do his flashcards with intention.
Yeah, Duolingo is like, it's very well put together. It's a great idea, but it's very much, it relies on, oh, you paid us a load of money, we're going to bully you into doing it.
Yeah, a tech company saw a gamification book and just went completely nuts. And sometimes games feel like that too. And I know it's a bit weird saying, oh yeah, video games using gamification. Like, that sounds very strange. But when I say gamification, you know what we mean? We mean that coercive shit. That's just, yeah, the framing is just not there in the way that it's been in the past two expansions.